Hi, I think it's streaming. I am coming to you live from home today. I'm finally back in Los Angeles. The last 2 weeks I was traveling. I was in New York for an event this past week. And then before that, I was in Santa Barbara. So if you did catch my live, you did catch me in those two places. But today I'm back home. And to be honest, I am feeling a little disoriented because I flew in last night. And today it was just a day that kind of started off a little bit off. And so I wanted to, though, still show up today because I missed yesterday because I was traveling during that time. And I don't have much of an agenda today, but I do definitely have some thoughts that I want to share because I think after doing events just back to back in the past few weeks, I finally have a little bit of time to just reflect and breathe a little bit. And to be honest, my place is a mess right now. I have to unpack, I have to clean. So feeling a little bit chaotic, but the chaos is settling a little bit because my next event is not till the end of October, which feels nice. We have 3 weeks left till that one. And then after that, and then we have back-to-back events for 3 weeks. But anyway, if this is your first time here, my name is Jane Yu. I am a wedding planner based in Los Angeles. I am the co-founder and owner of a company called UNS Events, which I run and own with my husband, John. And I love supporting engaged couples plan and design their wedding from beginning to end and help them enjoy the process while they're doing it. So today I had a couple of things I wanted to talk about. I only had one wedding this past few weeks. The first one was a little bit of a last minute hire for day of coordination. And it was a pretty big wedding. And after that, I did a small company retreat in Santa Barbara for a small business. It was a meeting for a few days, and it was nice to get away a little bit and be on a nice property. And then the last week, I was in New York for an event called CultureCon. I've been on the team for about 5 or 6 years now in different capacities. And this year I was brought on again a little bit more as a production consultant, if you want to call it that. And it was a multi-day event or 2-day event, and it was multi-day load-in. So needless to say, I'm pretty tired because I am no spring chicken anymore, but I am now back and getting some rest. And I think after events, it's always like that event. You're kind of on an event high, like while you're in the thick of it. And I do love being on site because you kind of see everything come together. You've been working so hard up to this point, and it's really cool to like see everything come together. Of course, there's always issues that are going to come up, and this was no exception. There were definitely issues that I had to deal with that I did not anticipate because it was my first time kind of dealing with this setup. And so in terms of the vendor that I was working with, for instance, it was my first time working with internet in a specific capacity. I've done it before, but there's just things that you don't really know to ask until you kind of do it. And as a producer, as a planner, you try your best to get all of the information. And I'm just thinking about people getting married. And of course, if this is your first time planning a wedding or planning a big event, then you don't really know what questions to ask, which is why I think it's really important to be able to find resources or have access to resources that can help you guide you along the way. And so that's what this channel really, which is really what I'm doing. I just realized I didn't even check. I did post to see if anyone had any questions or anything like that. And I just realized I don't have the chat up. So I don't know how to look at the chat. And so I have a lot of technical things that I still need to work out, but I really appreciate you being here. I think, and just to go back on what I was saying, just perspective wise, it's just goes to show how much I can still learn even after doing it for so long. And I think it's important to look at it from that perspective. I think there is a fine line between micromanaging vendors and asking the right questions. As a planner, I do want to make sure the event is set up for success. So sometimes, and I don't feel like I do this as much anymore, but I feel like in the past I did used to really want to get the nitty gritty of how everything is happening. But as you get more experience, you have to learn to trust your vendors. And I do want to tell that to couples. You don't want to micromanage your vendors, especially if they know what they're doing. You want to trust them, you want to lean on them for their expertise, and you want to make sure that they're set up for success by providing them the information that they need. Now, sometimes it's frustrating because some vendors don't have as much experience, so they don't really ask you the right questions, or they don't really set you up for success either. So I think it's kind of, I guess it's a little bit of not a catch-22, but it's a little bit of a challenge because you want to make sure you have an experienced vendor, and sometimes you might not end up with that person, just depending on who you hire. So if you do have referrals and stuff like that, that's always the best way to go. And that way, you know, they're vetted by someone you know, maybe someone who's worked with them in the past, or another vendor who can speak on their behalf or let you know that they've worked with them before. Another thing that I realized after events is there's always so much pressure leading up to the event. And even for me as a planner, even if it's not my event that I'm hosting, there's still a lot of pressure that you feel. And I think it's really important to decide how you're going to handle or respond to that pressure, especially if you are planning your wedding on your own. I think it's really easy to get lost in all of the things that need to be happening or that need to happen, which is why it's really important to kind of do it in phases that I suggest and recommend. Because this is a little bit different, you know, from a corporate event or a conference or something like that, where there are specific deadlines that you have a client to answer to. But when it's your own wedding, you want to make sure your sanity, your peace is protected. And so that's why I try to guide my couples in a way that makes sense for them. And I like to have like a longer period of time because most people work full time, and it's kind of a full-time job to plan a wedding. So the more time you have, the better it will be. But that pressure, I think, knowing how to deal with that stress, even on the day of, like all your vendors, that all really just comes with experience. So you also definitely want to have the best people by your side, the people who are going to have your back, the people who you can rely on, and they'll answer when you call, type of thing. I think working with people who are kind of really understaffed or squeezed to their maximum is really not ideal. I really try to not take on clients when I don't have the capacity to do it. But of course, that's a liberty that not everyone can take because we all need to make money. We all need to survive. And so I think it's just figuring out those nuances as you're planning is really important. And also giving people grace too. You know, I think right now, especially, the general sort of economic landscape has been really weird. There's been a lot of layoffs with people, not as much business for small businesses. Even for us, it was really slow. We had a slower year. But luckily, or not luckily, but you just kind of have to learn to roll with the punches. And so as a couple, I think it's, of course, the vendors are there to serve you. But my friend and I were just talking about how it's important to find good clients, and it's important to work with good clients. But not everyone is kind. Not everyone is going to be aligned with what you need. And in the same vein, I think it goes both ways. Like, it can't just be companies or vendors just saying yes, yes, yes all the time. And you can't really expect that from people all the time. But I think giving grace and being a little bit understanding will go a long way for everybody. And that's just kind of what I learned these past few weeks. Of course, there's times that you do have to put your foot down. And of course, there's times there are red flags flying everywhere and you got to nip it in the bud or you got to deal with it. But I think there's a way to manage things that happen and figuring out, triaging the different things that come up and making sure things fall into place in the order that they're supposed to. Of course, we all want a perfect event, but it just never happens. But I think especially what I learned with this last event, with a 2-day event, you have the opportunity on the second day to kind of work out those kinks from the first day, especially when you have such a large team and also new people in the mix from year to year. And again, for couples, it's really the first time that you're planning a wedding for most people. Even if it's your second or third, it might not be something that you do on the regular. And so I just want to remind you that, just giving grace and also just being able to tell vendors what you want without trying to manage what they're doing will go a long way. And for me, I do really try to ask clients or give opportunities or leave the door open for clients really to let me know when things aren't working out for them or if a process isn't working, because I want to make sure that I get all the answers that I need. So if something I'm doing is not working out, then I definitely want to know what's going to work better for you. Luckily, the system that I use Google Suites, or I don't even think it's called Google Suite anymore, Google Workspace, Google Sheets, Google Slides. Like I use the Google products. It's very collaborative and very streamlined. And I really, really enjoy that part of it. So that's something that I'm definitely going to keep. But yeah, I think it's just really nice to come back after an event and feel like I've accomplished something that I put in the work for the money that I made. And I hope everyone's wedding season is going well. I know that it's just getting started, and I have a couple of weddings too that I need to complete this fall. But other than that, I'm really working on booking for next year, for 2026. We do have a few on the books already. And as you might know, because I've talked about it, I am working on an online wedding education online wedding education program for couples who are planning their wedding, who may not be able to afford a planner, or they just really want to do it themselves, but really need some structured guidance. And this way I can really reach more people and help more people outside of Los Angeles or New York, which are my two main cities that I service. And so I'm really excited to continue building that. If you want more information about it, please subscribe to my newsletter. I will be just sharing weekly information. Thank you to everyone who has downloaded my wedding planning guide. I hope it's been helpful. And I think that I'm really excited to build this together with you, build this and be on this journey with you, especially if you're planning for your 2026 or 2027 wedding. I would love it if you follow me, or if we could connect, because I'm looking for people to just survey as well as research what you're looking for, what your pain points are when it comes to planning your wedding. So thank you for being here. I know this one was a little bit all over the place, but for the next ones, I'm really going to try and plan ahead. And I would really love for you to tell me what you want to talk about, what you want to hear about. I do have ideas of like stories I want to share, just things like this as well. But also, of course, how-tos in terms of just tips on certain subjects. And there's just so much to talk about, to be honest, with weddings. So please, 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 if you could drop them in the comments, or if you could email me, that would be great. All of my information is in the comments section or the description section. And thank you again for being here, and I hope to see you next week.